you will never guess what. I have another RX 5700 XT for a review. Hi guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to my channel. After checking out Sapphire's model based on the latest Navi 10 GPU, feel free to check it out, I will put the link in the right top corner of this video. With it, I moved away from the so-called big trio, and today I am continuing this journey by taking a look at XFX Radeon RX 5700 XT Rod 2 model. Some of you maybe already saw a couple of reviews of this card, and the reason why I'm mentioning this at all, well, this card seems to be running a little bit hot. The temperatures are not quite what one could expect out of it. Jumping right into it to check that out, the GPU temperature was above 70 degrees Celsius, mostly around 73 to 74 degrees Celsius, which is a bit higher compared to some of the other RX 5700 XT cards that I've tested, but still much lower than the reference design, while on the other hand, the GPU junction temperature was roaming around the 90 degrees Celsius mark, usually just a bit above, which is somewhere in the middle. It's not the highest I've seen nor the lowest for a RX 5700 XT GPU. Unfortunately, the video memory and VRM temperatures were also higher than what I usually see with this series, running at 84 to 86 degrees Celsius for the video memory and around 78 degrees Celsius for the VRMs. I managed to pull those numbers down a bit as I did my overclocking of the card, with doing a little bit of undervolting also. With that, I was seeing on average degree or two lower temperatures, while also bringing up the performance of the card and lowering down the fan speed to mostly around 1500 RPM instead of 1700 RPM. I've maxed out the video memory frequency to 950 MHz without a problem, and I could have gone up with a GPU core clock a bit more, but there was no point in doing that as it required higher GPU core voltage and it brought only 20 to 30 MHz more on the table. In the end, like this, I think I have achieved a better balance of the card. It's a little bit weird, to say at least, that a card with this, what seems to be a beefy cooling setup, consisting out of 4 heat pipes running through the 2-part aluminum fin stack, and which are in direct contact with the GPU block, as well as separate plates with thermal pads which cool off the VRMs and video memory, has a problem of keeping everything a bit cooler than it is. It's not like it's vastly underperforming, but it just visually looks, it has that presence, like it could do better. This model also supports 0dB 0 RPM fan mode when the GPU is not under load, so the idle temperatures are understandably a bit higher. There is an option of loading up a different BIOS, a low fan speed BIOS profile as they call it, by just moving the switch on the card into other position, but I kept it at the normal stock fan speed BIOS profile with my testing, as I usually do when a card has something like this, because rarely anyone will actually use it, and before all, if you're going to do something like updating the BIOS or switching between versions, you might as well make your own fan profile in MSI's Afterburner or some other utility, do your own overclocking and undervolting, especially since a good chunk of it depends on the GPU die potential of your sample and your chassis fan setup, and this way you will get the most out of your graphics card rather than just relying on a BIOS change and leaving everything else untouched. Other than that, overall I like how the card looks. It's mostly black and has this angular shape of the outer shell, with these grill-like looking details around few parts, and silver inserts on the side, sort of like coming out from within the card. Everything is made out of plastic here, except for the big metal backplate, which partially wraps around onto the one side of the card, and which looks a bit basic, but it's still decent enough on account of these cutout details on it. The only thing that I do mind is the fact that they went for a glossy looking finish for the fan blades. Why? Why? It's already all scratched up and it really doesn't look that appealing in my opinion. This is somewhat redeemed with this pretty subtle but unfortunately only white glowing LED XFX logo on the side of the card. For powering it up, we have an 8+6-pin PCI Express power connectors, which also have an empty space between them, so you can tuck away that extra 2-pin that you don't need from the 8-pin, while they have 2 LEDs which indicate that the power is running through them. Back there you will also find this 4-pin connector, and honestly I'm not 100% sure for what it is. I can't find any info on it. I thought it was a PWM connector for a fan or a 12V RGB LED header. Maybe some of you know what it is. Feel free to tell me in the comments down below. Lastly, we have your usual video output array consisting out of 3 display ports 1.4 and 1 HDMI 2.0B. If you have any questions or other concerns about this model, feel free to leave me a comment down below and I will help you out. And down there in the description box, to be precise, you can also find my setup which I used to test out this GPU. So, what about the performance of this model? Well, it's a RX 5700 XT graphics card in the end. I've already had my hands on a couple of them, and I assume that majority of you are well aware of its general performance. It's best suited for 1440p gaming, it can handle any game and basically any graphic settings at that resolution, while for those who want to play at high FPS on their high refresh rate monitors, and in that case it's best intended for 1080p resolution use. 4K is also doable, but I will lower down the graphics settings in order to get a decent frame rate output. As for my overclocking settings, which I've mentioned earlier, the performance here jumps by about 5%, so nothing too exciting as we are all already used to seeing that with Navi 10 GPUs, but I did manage to pull the power consumption down a bit by about 10 to 20 watts, since the card was also undervolted in that case. As I already talked about it, the fans are running on the faster side than what I'm used to seeing with RX 5700 XT and RX 5700 graphics cards, so the acoustic situation isn't that great, but it's not that bad either. I was seeing the fans running between 1600 and 1800 RPM, mostly somewhere in the middle of that. Like this, it's a bit quieter than the Gigabytes model, but that one has 3 fans running at 1800 RPM at stock, so it's not that hard to beat it noise-wise, while overall, at least for my taste, it's a bit too loud, but that's on an open test bed, and I'm a noise freak, so take that with a grain of salt. Here's a short sound clip of the card's fans under stock and OC load, while also showing you the sound meter for a measurement comparison. All in all, with all of this information at one place, this model stands on its own. It does have some issues like almost any other model out there. It performs good in one field but lacks in other areas, but bottom line, it might have a hard time fighting its way through to its potential buyers next to some of the other partner models on the market which prove to be a bit more rounded up products. That's it for this time from me. Thank you once again for watching. Toss me a thumbs up if you enjoyed my content, that really helps a lot. And if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe, and if you already are, be sure to press that notification bell down below so you don't miss out on a new video. And until then, catch you later guys.